Good evening. My name is Mike Keefe, and it's my honor today to talk with you and share some of my thoughts and words about our great friend Mike. As I thought about what to say tonight and what I appreciate the most about Mike was that how he poured into those people that he met. And I look around this space and I know how many people he's poured into. And he didn't seep or drip. Mike Mitcheom poured into people. So I picture like a 5-gallon bucket being dumped into a 4-gallon bucket, right? And then it overflows. And that's really what I thought about most about Mike, is how it overflowed beyond the people that he first touched, and it went into friends of friends and friends, and it just grew to this amazing love. I even looked it up in the dictionary. This is a Mike Mitcheom thing to do. Let me look that up. So I looked up my research. Thank you, guys. Mike was a researcher. I looked it up. What's the definition of pour something into something else? And in the dictionary, it says to give a lot of attention or effort to something with the idea of making it successful. I mean, is that perfect for what Mike was doing to all of us, to me, to you, his family? He wanted us to be successful, and he poured himself into us to do that. And we're completely lucky that he did it. And did you notice when you met Mike, or when you had a conversation with Mike, how fully in and locked in he was? His cell phone ringing didn't matter. He didn't even have it with him half the time. He used to drive me crazy. I would try to call him, and he would never pick it up. And I'm like, what's the deal? And then I spent time with Mike, and I realized, well, when I was with him, he didn't have his phone with him then either. So he didn't pick it up for all of you. Right? Because he was locked in. One time I called him and I left him a message, and then I texted him because I wanted to have him come over for dinner. Karen was out of town. I'm like, come on over and have dinner. He didn't call me back for 14 hours. Right? I'm like, I guess he's not coming for dinner. And when I talked to him after that, I texted him again and said, listen, a 14-hour response time to my phone call doesn't put you on my emergency contact list. And he said, that's probably a good idea. Because he wanted to be connected, and he wanted to be with the people he was with when he was in that moment. I learned that if I wanted to get a hold of Mike, I'd try to call him. Odds are he wouldn't answer. And then my sequence of phone calls next was Peyton, then Karen, then Noah. Then I'd try Mike again. Who was most likely to pick up the call? Mike overfilled all of us with his positivity, for sure, his optimism, his energy, support, his love, laughter, his strength, his friendship, and his goofiness. The memory I have from here was Mike jumping into the pool over here with a bunch of Noah's friends and family at a high school graduation party he had here. He chose to live his life looking for the positive part in every situation. He focused on that. And it's not like he didn't know that there was negatives, but he just would say, yeah, but I look at it like this. You'd bring something up and he'd say, hey, I'm having trouble with this. He goes, did you look at it like this? And he always had that spin. When he was first taken to the hospital, he was transferred to the ICU. And he was only allowed one visitor at a time. And it had to be an immediate family member. And the security had these rules, and they had an authorized family-only list. And when you arrived at security, they would check your name against this list and let you in. But what they didn't do was see how many times we used the same name over and over and over. And then what they didn't do is they didn't put the blank name tags away at night. And so I think Lance still probably has a roll of those. I had a name tag on my shirt and 2 or 3 on the inside of my shirt that we would hand out to people. And I remember one night, I think we had 9 people in the ICU. Right? Supposed to have 1, maybe 2 at the most. We had 9. And it was because it was so many people wanted to come be around Mike and Noah and Peyton and Karen and show their support and love. And the people who couldn't get in, I looked out of the hospital out a window one time and I saw a bunch of you outside just standing around talking out in front. Students, kids that he's coached, parents that came by just to be together. And I witnessed all that love and strength and courage that Mike had poured into Karen and Peyton and Noah and his family. I watched that overflow into the hospital each and every day. And it was almost immediately that the doctors and the nurses and the technicians and even the security staff, when we actually came in the front door, we learned that we could go in around the back door. But they could get an amazing sense of the love and the kind of man that Mike was by all of us that came through. One day I was having lunch outside outside of the cafeteria, and one of the doctors came up and sat with me, one of Mike's doctors. And he kind of started tearing as he was telling me about the impact that Mike's family had on him and the hospital staff. And he said they all talked about it that morning at their briefing. And they all had went home and talked about it with their families. And they had this strong emotional impact from seeing the overflow of Mike and his family in the ICU. And he said it was just not typical as he was tearing, as he was talking to me about it. You know, Mike's condition was really serious the entire time he was in the hospital. But no matter how bad the results were or the information that we got, at some point, one of us would always say, yeah, but you don't know Mike Mitcheom. Or, so you say we have a chance. After that, one day, Peyton, Noah, and my son Aiden and I were sitting outside, and we started watching a couple honey badger videos, right? If you don't know about the honey badgers, I'm going to teach you a little bit about that. But we laughed about how this honey badger had this unrelenting spirit that was very similar to what Mike has. And later that night, I couldn't sleep, and I looked at my phone, and up popped the honey badger video on my phone. So in true Mike Mitcheom style, I researched, and I went down this rabbit hole in the internet of looking and reading about honey badgers. And this is what I found. There's a woman named Dr. Tanya Lowe. Do you know she wrote a paper about the 16 leadership traits of a honey badger? Honest to God. I'm going to read you some of this. Now picture Mike Mitcheom. Here's the traits of a honey badger. Relentless, tenacious, has a reputation for performance. Fearless, doesn't use fear as an excuse ever. Determined to succeed, never afraid of larger-than-life challenges, is outcome-driven. Focuses on strengths instead of weaknesses. Doesn't associate or waste time, this is my favorite, waste time with negativity or other badgers who are not like-minded. Resourceful, resilient, and not afraid to take risk because over time it builds strength and character. I was like, where is Mike now? We would talk about that for hours. I have a couple past years of texts on my phone from Mike. And when I went back and looked at them recently, I realized that what we did most was just text random stories like that to each other that we found on the internet, and then talk about it for hours and glean some little pearl of wisdom that we would overshare with our kids. Right? We would just say it over and over till they're like, okay, shut up, I don't want to hear it. Right? But that's kind of how we did, and we would have talked for hours about that one. A couple years ago for a Christmas gift, Mike gave me this journal. I got it in April. We laughed about that. But that's how Mike was. He would never give a gift just because it's Christmas. He gave a gift because it had to have meaning to him. And at this particular time, it hit him. And on the back page of this journal is a handwritten note from Mike, the whole back page. And it talks about how Mike thought I should write down some of my firehouse stories and other adventures that I had talked with him about over the years. And I never started that book. He'd asked me a couple times. He even bought me a membership for Masterclass because he thought, if you get on there, they'll teach you about how to write a book and the story, and it'll be good for you. And he kept pushing me to do it, and I hadn't started yet. But I left the book in a spot in my house where I could see it, so it would remind me that one day I need to do that. Well, the day I needed to do that was the day that I got the call about Mike. And I grabbed this book and I brought it to the hospital. And if you guys were with me, unfortunately, you saw me carry this book around for the next 8 days. I journaled every single day that I was there as much as I could because somehow I felt like there was a Mitcheom comeback coming. And I wanted Mike to have it. I wanted him and his family to be able to read it. I wanted him to know about how strong Karen and Peyton and Noah were, and how many people were just surrounding them with love and poured into them. But now this journal starts at the end, and it's not about me. It's his story, not mine. And if you read the first 20 pages in this book, the last days of Mike's life, it doesn't tell the whole story. It tells a really sad, heartbreaking story about loss of a beloved husband and a father and a son-in-law, a brother, uncle, one of our friends that left us too soon. But what if I started the book at the beginning of Mike's life? What an amazing story it would be if we read it that way. I only know some of the story. I met Mike about 15 years ago, but Mike's filled me in on the other part. Some of you know all those pages. I can only imagine what that book would be like. It'd be filled with family and friends, and then more family, and then becoming a high school athlete, a college athlete, finding some more family, meeting Karen, the love of his life, Bobby McGee's owning his own restaurant, raising two amazing children, now adults, business success, vacations, building friendships, coaching, laughing, Cal Poly, Cal Berkeley, pouring into others, and on and on and on. In the end, there was a comeback, but it wasn't the one I had envisioned. You see, Mike had checked the box on his driver's license that said he would donate his organs. And in the final hours of Mike's life, Karen, Peyton, and Noah could hear Mike's voice clearly, and they said, of course, Mike would want to give that amazing gift. The next 5 long hours involved the process of searching for a match, and a match was eventually identified, but not just a match that had family connection. And I'll tell you that happenstance leading to the match was literally impossible to happen. Mike's living on in someone else. I try to picture, if you can picture a giant V8 motor of Mike in another vehicle. Hang on. I should have expected no less from Mike. And on the last page of my book, Mike's story ends, surrounded by the love of his family, and another family cries tears of joy as their loved one gets more pages added to their story. And in true Mitcheom positivity, I think Mike would say this about his story. Don't focus on the end. Read the whole book. Yeah, it ended too soon, but man, did I get a lot in there. I'll always do my best to try to focus on the whole story of Mike and his legacy, and not just the 8 days I wrote about in this book. And I can't understand why he's gone so soon. I'm still in disbelief, and I'm paralyzed at times by sadness. But then I clearly hear his voice. Get up, go find happiness. Don't miss the next experience. Live and enjoy your life, smile, laugh, and be strong. I'm so thankful Mike Mitcheom poured into me.
Before I start, I want to thank the Granite Bay community. You are absolutely overwhelming with your generosity and your love. I know a lot of people put a lot of effort into this, and I know Karen and the kids and our family all really appreciate it a lot. Special shout out to the Keefs for all they did. They were there with us every minute of that hellacious 7 days. The Soros family for opening your home. I'd like to know, Lance, if I can use this on call at any time, but because it really is a great place to gather. Bad reason today, maybe a better time later. And to the Fitches, who have always stood by Mike and Karen and the kids. You all are wonderful, wonderful people. Also want to shout out to my wife, Lisa, because from our marriage to the birth of Lauren and Ashley, to the marriage of Michael and Karen, the addition of Peyton and Noah has been the rock that's held our family together, and without her, I'd be lost. You know, Mike and I used to do a lot of public speaking. A lot of people don't like public speaking, and they don't like getting up in front of 100 people and having to talk for an hour about anything. But he and I would do seminars in Pennsylvania and Arizona and Southern California, and we would always have to flip a coin to see who was going to get to do the speech. Loser sits in the crowd, winner gets to be on stage. And I was thinking today, this is sure one of those times I wished I'd have lost that coin flip. Mike and I had a very unusual beginning in our life. We didn't realize we were around for about 17 years, but for the last 36 years, we made up for a lot of lost time. I mean, there was golf trips and cruises and family vacations and lots of hundreds of great lunches. Every time we got together, it was like we'd just seen each other, couldn't wait to fill each other in on everything that had been going on. Some of those lunches lasted a little longer than Lisa and Karen probably would have liked. But we had a great 36 years. We realized early we had a lot of similarities. We had the same name. We shared the same birthday. Our children were born in the same house. We even like the same foods, which is really weird that you can grow up and as an adult and realize you guys like the same stuff. Not normal stuff that everybody would like a ribeye steak and a good glass of wine and a cocktail or a beer. But who would think that you could match up with someone that's favorite sandwich was a roast beef sandwich with extra mayo on Wonder Bread. And that was both our favorites. So a little bit about Mike's life. So Bill Russell, who was a great NBA player, won more championships than any other player out there, was asked a lot about his basketball career. And he had a saying, he said, "Basketball is what I do, it's not who I am." And I think about that with Mike because Mike started out in the restaurant business and he loved the restaurant business. And I could never quite figure out why a business so hard and demanded so much time and energy he would love so much. And then I realized that it wasn't the thrill of the recipes or the new craft cocktails, but he loved the restaurant business because Mike was a people pleaser. He lived to please other people, and he took that right to his home when he would entertain because he loved to do that entertaining. When he got into the insurance business, he always said, "Dad, this is not a lot of fun. The restaurant business was a lot more fun than insurance is." But he thrived at that too, and that's because he's a people helper. He was a people helper. He took people's problems. He'd take a call that the rest of us will get rid of in 5 or 10 minutes, and he'd listen to that person go on about their problem for an hour because he was a people helper. We had an adage. I've had an adage that I've lived by for a long time, and I may have to say it twice because it's kind of complicated, but it goes like this. The things you do that you don't have to do always determine how well you'll be doing when it's too late to do anything about it. In simple English, the things you do that you don't have to do are going to determine your success and your failure. And Michael always went the extra mile. Always. I think of it whether it was the way he idolized Karen and the kids. I think about all the things he did. He'd never say, "Can you help me move?" "Sure." Move? Who likes moving? But no matter what you ever asked of him, he always went the extra mile. And it was really evident with Peyton and Noah because he was never going to be a game day dad. He was going to be the dad that's coaching the team, standing on the field, every practice, every minute, and every game. It's because he never did things half-assed, pardon my French. The Greek philosopher Aristotle had a saying. He said, "We are what we repeatedly do. Excellence, therefore, is not an act, but a habit." And if anybody could personify excellence in life as a habit, it would be Michael. Everybody here, every person in this assembly right now, fell into one of these categories. And as I read these categories, I want you just to think of how Mike showed excellence to you as this category goes through. Husband, father, son, son-in-law, brother, brother-in-law, uncle, nephew, cousin, and friend. There's not one person in those categories that I read that wouldn't say that Mike was an excellent in each and every one of his relationships with you. I know that. So, in closing, join me in the thoughts. Michael, I know you're looking down on us, and your spirit is in all our hearts. We all desperately miss you and know you will be forever loved. Thank you for sharing your life with us and bringing so much joy and laughter. We will all see you on the other side. Please continue to look out for us. We love you.
This is going to be tough to get through. We know this is a beer and wine event, but we're going to need something a little bit stronger. So if we start to lose it,
We're going to ring our bell.
do we have a bell?
Yeah. It'll be delivered.
We're going to ring our bell, and our drunkle fairies are going to make a delivery to help us reset. They need a minute to get ready. Irresistible people are like unicorns, mythical and very rare to find. Some people, regardless of what they lack, always radiate energy and confidence. Even the most skeptical individuals find themselves enamored with these charming personalities. Irresistible people are the life of every party and the one that people turn to for help, advice, and companionship. My brother was the definition of an irresistible person. On the back of a koozie, you probably have keeping your beverage cold. You'll see the words, "Live like Mike." Shout out to Karen for coming up with that. Today, my sister and I are going to share what we think made Mike an irresistible person in hopes that we can all find ways to carry on his legacy and live as he did.
Michael had an uncanny ability to create connections and find depth even in short, everyday conversations. He had an authentic interest in other people and effortlessly created connections with everyone he encountered. This is the quality that drew me to the most to him. My earliest memories of Michael were when my parents would bring me to McGee's. Michael would greet me at the door and proceed to hand me a chocolate milkshake with whipped cream on top. He knew the way to a kid's heart. And even though we were separated by decades in age, he always treated me like his equal. Looking back, I feel a little bit bad about some of the things that we made him do. Can you imagine how dreadful it would be in your 20s-somethings to take a 2-year-old, two kids, Lauren and I, to an overcrowded water park in Roseville at 104-degree weather? But he never let on. To us, he was always having the most fun day of his life. And that's how he lived. He never dreaded where he was. He always made the most out of every situation that he was in, and we loved to show him off. We would relish in the moments when we could say, "This is my brother," and then just let him do his thing, which was entertain and impress each person to no end with his charisma and charm. And on top of that, he gave us the best sister-in-law that we could ever ask for. Michael married up. Karen was his perfect match, someone to soften his edges, someone to nurture him, and then one day Peyton and Noah. Someone who fully embraced and accepted him for who he was. You didn't just love and respect each other, you understood each other. In their family, it was always said that Michael was the boom. He was the noise, the chaos, the crazy. But his boom is forever a part of you. And you are forever our sister.
Watching Michael become a dad was hands down our favorite thing in the world. Watching Michael become a dad was hands down my favorite thing in the world, especially now that I'm a mom myself. I'm pretty certain that the gentle parenting books of today's generation don't say, ask your kids which parent they like the best. But that was Michael. He could pull off any joke, not caring whether it was politically correct. In fact, the more inappropriate, the better. I'll spare you some of our favorite examples for fear we would offend this large audience. One of the most uncommon approaches to parenting Michael committed to was honesty. He would fairly judge Peyton and Noah's endless drawing contests, cannonball competitions, races, etc. I can hear him now saying point blank, Peyton clearly won. Sorry, Noah, you're younger. It's gonna be this way for a while, that's just the truth. There were no ties, no give me wins. He was on a constant journey to understand his kids, who they are, who they want to be, how they think, what makes them tick, and then he would question and challenge them and help them grow.
If we thought childhood with Michael was fun, adulting was nothing in comparison. He was probably one of the first people in the world to treat me like an adult. His questions were genuinely inquisitive, pushing me to open up more, pushing me to be comfortable being uncomfortable. Not to mention, he was one of the greatest drinking buddies. Drinking buddies is now my cue to bring up the drunkles, as Michael coined them. Forget all of the protective brotherly days of proving to be a worthy suitor for his sisters. Michael saw his opportunity of a lifetime of debauchery, and he jumped on it. This was a love unlike any other, from hideous matching Hawaiian shirts and drunkle jerseys, to setting off fireworks under the influence, to 4 epic days of Oktoberfest in Germany, which we will never know truly what happened on that trip. Their antics had the ability to turn my mom's hair gray.
Irresistible people are positive and passionate. They are never bored or boring because they see life as an amazing adventure and they approach it with a joy that other people want to be part of. Michael had the ability to find magic in the mundane. Everything he did 100%. 2 Christmases ago, we were in the throes of a global pandemic and I had just given birth to my son, Jack. We made the impossible decision to spend the holidays apart. Most normal humans would just send a Christmas gift, maybe a family FaceTime, but not Michael. That would be boring, expected. Instead, Uncle Mike, Karen, Peyton, and Noah drove 4 hours round trip at midnight on Christmas Eve to land one of the greatest surprises of all time for 2 little girls. On Christmas morning, we woke up to a video message on our phone prompting us to go outside. On the front lawn was a Power Wheels Jeep Wrangler adorned with balloons that they had sneakily delivered while we were fast asleep. Nothing Mike did was small, and this is just one of a dozen examples of his larger-than-life way he lived. This year, we started a new tradition called Sib Lunch, aka Sibling Lunch. Michael found himself somewhere between a boomer and a millennial, so he had a tendency to abbreviate anything he could, and he'd be really pissed at me for bringing that up. Ashley and I would block off our work calendars for an estimated 2 hours for said Sib Lunch, only to return a casual 4+ hours later. 4 hours spent like 4 minutes when you were with Michael. Conversations were broad, ranging from parenting tips to planning our next exotic family vacation that Lisa would inevitably shoot down, but focused primarily on our shared admiration for the adults Peyton and Noah have become. At one lunch, we spent hours talking in circle, wondering when the hell Cal was going to give Noah the call that he had officially made the team. Witnessing Noah's dreams come true was truly one of the greatest joys of his life. After Peyton's 21st birthday in SLO, Mike told us, I realize my daughter is really freaking cool without trying, in a Michael voice. She had her sights set on skydiving and told her friends that they could come along, but that she was going to do it no matter what. 14 buddies ended up jumping out of the plane too. 14, can you believe it? So legit. Peyton, he was always gushing about how you possess a unique ability to blaze your own trail and don't look to others for validation because you're confident enough to find it within yourself.
We had a family dinner in Berkeley in May to celebrate my dad's and Michael's birthday, as well as Noah getting into Cal, go Bears. Afterward, Mike sent a text to our family group thread. Oh, that's so tall. His text said, "Sunny days like this is what should be remembered, even when the clouds roll in. This last week is really what life is about. Birthdays, skydiving, graduations, babies to be born, happy kid videos, writing books, careers on the rise, family dinners, dreams coming true, just this week. The sun is shining bright on our family." The last line gets me. The sun is shining bright on our family. Well, right now, all I know is that the clouds have rolled in. It's unavoidable not to admit that Karen and Peyton and Noah have been cheated. There's no denying that this is unfair. But Michael has changed and shaped your lives, and you will never stop learning from him. If he had to leave this world when he did, he left on a sunny day that he worked so hard to get us all to. Knowing that Peyton is going to thrive in her remaining year at Cal Poly, going abroad and beyond, he knew that Noah would be taken care of at Cal by his football family. And most importantly, he knew you were happy, because at the end of the day, nothing mattered more to him than your happiness, no matter where that takes you in the future. He got us here, and I'm forever grateful for that. On his last night with us, Mike and Karen made the drive out to the Bay Area to celebrate my sister's birthday and to meet Lucy, the newest addition to the family, who's here. While sharing a few cocktails, we listened as he very excitedly showed us pictures and videos of South Dakota, stating in a very Mike way, "Sometimes you don't realize how proud you are of where you came from until you see it from someone else's point of view." We laughed at him for parking on the street instead of the dirt parking lot because he said he didn't want to get the Raptor dusty. We relished in the fact that we were together, enjoying good wine, great food, and even better company. It was truly a great night. I'm glad we got that night together, but I hope that no one dwells on the last moments with him, because his life cannot be defined by a moment. I keep going back to a few months ago when he gave me career advice at one of the SIB lunches. He said, "It doesn't matter how you got here because you're here now. So now you have to think, what's my next step? It's never too late." Being here at his memorial, it's the last place on earth any of us ever wanted to be. And it doesn't matter how we got here because we're here now. So what's our next step? I don't exactly have an answer to that question yet, but I will end with a few things that I'm thankful for. I'm thankful that I will always know the answer to the question, what would Michael do? What would Michael want me to do? I'm thankful that he was a yes man. He lived more in his 50-something years than some people live in 100 years or ever at all. I'm thankful that he knew how loved he was. He impacted each and every person here today. Who else do you know that could pull in a crowd of this magnitude? Only Mike.
He used to joke that in this world, there are givers and there are takers, and I'm a giver. Every time he would say this, which was very often, it would elicit a laugh from the family. The truth is, he really was a giver. The greatest gift he gave us was our family, Karen, Peyton, and Noah. He valued our family above all else, and our family is strong. As Peyton said this morning, we got this. Following our last night together, I thanked Mike and Karen for making the trek to the Bay. In true Michael fashion, he replied, "Free food and drink." My last text from my brother is free food and drink. There's something about this and his sarcastic sense of humor that brings me laughter, even on a cloudy day like today. So here's to Michael, here's to free food and drink in his honor, and here's to sunny days. Here's to living like Mike.
I think this was a lot easier this morning when I was at home in front of my family. So, awesome speeches. Just a privilege to be here. My name's Patrick Fitch, and I was Michael's best friend. I want to thank everyone for coming today. This is an amazing community. I know Mike Sr. said it. Granite Bay has just been a blessing for us, and this community is amazing. Thank you for Lance and Stacy for hosting this gathering, to open your home to everyone here, to be able to have this tribute to Mike. To Karen, Peyton, and Noah, I love you. The opportunity to speak about Michael is an honor. I hope to make him proud today. Mike and I met 13 years ago, almost to the day. My family and I just relocated from New Mexico, and we were at my daughter Maddie's first soccer practice with her new Granite Bay team. Shout out to Pam and Ken Prager for taking a kid from the 505 with shitty foot skills and had her on the team, because maybe it wouldn't ever happen. So, Michael's daughter Peyton obviously was on the team as well. And I found out later that Michael had said to her, figure out how to be friends with the new girl, because I want to be friends with her dad. Little did I know that that would spark the beginning of the most beautiful friendship and the deepest connection with any person I've ever had. Michael and I, along with our families, became fast friends, connecting about similar childhoods, family upbringings, and an unwavering tenacity to pave our own path and to create our own lives with our families in our own light. Of course, we also shared a love for sports, beach vacations, some political debates sometimes that were a little uncomfortable, and possibly some bourbon late at night. As many of you know, we became affectionately known as the Mitcheoms. Where they went, we followed, and where we went, they were right behind. Michael's passing has made me think a lot about time and the value of what we do with our time. Mike was a master at that. He used every moment to make an impact. He used every interaction to create connection and lived every minute to inspire and coach others. No moment was wasted and no day was spent idle. I'd like all of you to take a moment just to think about a time you spent with Mike and the connection and impact and how they had on you and the situation that you were in with him. The thing about time is none of us know exactly how much we have and what's left. Michael lived as he knew exactly how much time he had. He seemed to live by a mental list he methodically and deliberately would check off and accomplish. Always the next step. He often would say that the key to life and happiness was to marry the right person. Check. Sorry. He was proud to watch Peyton thrive in college and would often tell me a few weeks ago that his work parenting Peyton was over and he was merely now a consultant, which is helper. I said, yeah, sure. Right, Mike. Check. Most of us here know what an avid football fan Mike was, and more importantly, how proud he was of his favorite football player. Noah Mitcheom. Watching Noah achieve the dream of playing D1 football, check. Michael was always coaching, on and off the field. For those of you fortunate enough to have been coached by Mike, me, everyone here probably at some point, he always had an impact on your children. I'm sorry, I lost my train of thought, sorry. Mike has been joking, Mike. You know, he was dedicated, enthusiastic, and he was always an inspiring mentor. Those of you lucky enough to be on his team and know how Michael inspired you to do your best, to be a good teammate, and to love sports, check. Just a week before his passing, Mike made it home to South Dakota, where he revisited some of his childhood memories and his favorite sites. Once again, Mike was a master, staying connected with his roots, never forgetting where he was from, regardless of the pain. Mike was always looking to make memories. He never wanted things. He always told us he wanted experiences. This past Christmas, he surprised the entire Mitcheom clan with a night at Kings basketball, which was his favorite, barbecue and axe throwing downtown. He knew that getting us all together at the same time was becoming more and more difficult as all of our lives had spread out and people had moved on. He wanted a night we would all remember. Check. Little do we know it would be our last holiday together. As a grand finale, Michael's final mic drop was the gift of life through organ donation, the most selfless and heroic sacrifice any human being can give another. Check. Awesome job, my friend. Awesome job. Although always in the moment, Mike was the biggest dreamer I've ever known. I didn't grow up dreaming. Dreaming was a disappointment and a futile mental event never to be realized. Mike taught me the importance of dreaming. And not only dreaming, but to dream big, huge. Mike dreamed of one day having land in Montana, South Dakota, or a place like that where our families would come together. He would describe an enormous Christmas tree during the holidays, a grand fireplace, a huge kitchen for cooking and laughter, and more importantly, rooms for our kids and their eventual families. He would talk about the vision of driving to the airport in his big truck to pick everyone up, returning to the house for s'mores and bourbon by the fireplace and friendly games of Fitch and Family Feud. He dreamed of calling it Tatanka. Tatanka is the Lakota word for bison or buffalo. And to the Lakota people, a buffalo symbol stands as a reminder of the great animal which completely gives of itself until the very end. The buffalo is a symbol of self-sacrifice, and it gives until there's nothing left. To be generous and give without what you have to others in need. Or to honor them is the most highly respected way of living. The last message I ever received from my best friend was a photo of a bison he had seen while on a recent trip to South Dakota. The photo was simple like Mike, but was impactful. And it was capitalized Tatanka. I'll do this once again. I need I'm almost done, I promise. I'm forever changed by Mikael's friendship. And God, I miss him deeply. And I picked a quote from Lao Tzu that said, "The flame that burns twice as bright burns half as long." A world without Mikael's bright light is unimaginable, and the void's left me has me reeling. The despair I feel is deep, and I'm grateful for my friend and his beautiful family. Noah summed this up best when he said, "I would take the best badass dad for 18 and a half years over some lame ass dad for 50-some years." Michael's bright blame now lives in Karen, Peyton, and Noah, and through the Fitch family and through everybody here who's come here today. I will conclude with this. There's one thing I know for certain. I didn't get enough time with Mikael, yet somehow, in true Mikael Mitcheom fashion, it was just the right amount of time. I thank everybody for coming. I appreciate it. Thank you so much. Everybody stayed so well composed. I'm like, how the heck am I going to do that? I'm Sean Coyne. I'm Michael's brother. Come on. So, it's always interesting explaining my brother to people. He came into my life at such an interesting time. I was just entering my teens, and I was just discovering girls, just discovering just how to be in groups and sports and just in society. And he came equipped with so much knowledge, and I just was thirsty for that. It was so great to have this strong figure who was just 3 years older than me, but just would sit up late at night and talk about a girl I liked and what should I do, Mike, to get her attention. And he always knew what to say, and it worked. He was always so driven and focused on. I saw him accomplish amazing things in sports and in weightlifting and even in school politics. Just he saw something and went after it.
in the lines of the Tatanka. I didn't really realize that was such an iconic thing that he had locked in on until just recently. But in South Dakota, a Tatanka is a vision of a strong beast that, like he said, gives to the end, but they also face into the storm. You'll see a Tatanka in the worst of times. They will face into the storm and let it beat them. And that's why they're so tough and focused. And that was interesting how Mike would go after a challenge. He wanted to be uncomfortable. He wanted to be challenged. He wanted to change and have an experience. And so having a brother growing up like that, it was always so inspirational. He followed dreams that I never could imagine, and he always wanted to hear about what I was doing in my life. I was running off doing documentaries and doing things and barely making enough to survive, but he always wanted to hear my stories. Like, what about you, Mike? What do you what's your life like? No, this and that. He's always talking about family. But I always wanted to hear about me. And we'd get together with people, and I would introduce him to new friends, and he would completely redirect his focus and invest in that person that was in the room, and we would just see him just absorb and give love to somebody. He would come and he spent hours with my daughter, who's getting her master's in psychology, and just made her feel like the most important woman on the planet. Came and sat with my stepdaughter, who was a little different, and just sat for hours and listened to her and let her talk. And I thought to myself, I want to do that. I want to know that love and investment in strangers, because he is giving so much, but he's receiving so much too. We're going to get back on track here. He also had such an amazing desire to accomplish things together. He always said, I want to do things as a family. We did some amazing family trips, that he was a part of. And then later in life, he wanted to go into business with me and do real estate deals. And I was like, I don't know squat about that kind of stuff. But he said, let's just figure it out. Let's just stumble through it. Let's just figure it out. And so we had just gotten started. The trip that he came back to South Dakota for was my birthday, and we got to spend a week together. We just purchased our property to do Airbnb together, and we sat and we talked about the next one, the next one, the next one, and then he was opening my mind and talking about the Tatanka Ranch. He's like, I'm going to get this ranch, and everybody's going to be welcome. It's going to be so huge, it's going to be unbelievable. And we all were just like, you got this. We knew he was going to do it. And we had this 20-year plan together. So the fact that I don't get to do that with him by my side, we're going to keep pressing on with those plans, those dreams. He became a voice in my head through a couple rough divorces. Tried to talk to me before, during, and after. And I love him, but I didn't listen to him. But third time's a charm. The first time he met my current wife, we were at a football game in Denver. He said, this one's a keeper. You keep this one. So then I know, okay, Mike approves. It got to a point where, I think somebody else mentioned this too, is that I would say to myself, in a business situation, in an opportunity, in a family situation, well, what would Mike do? I would honestly do that. WWMD, what would Mike do in this scenario? Okay, well, that's scary. Okay, but that's what Mike's going to do. That's what I would do. And I all of a sudden had an empowerment to make different decisions with something that he had blessed me with. He had given me something that I know he's given every one of you, even with a moment of his time or hours and months of his time. If you met him, he gave you something, and you get to take that. There's a story that I heard before. Actually, just heard it again in a movie, but it's a legend of a bird with no legs. And the bird flies all the time. And it soars, and it sees everything. And when it's tired, it rests on the wind, but it stays in the air. And when it gains its energy, it continues to fly again. It can never land. And then one day, when it is done, it flies away. And I felt that about Michael. Michael never really landed. He always flew. Even when he was at rest, and just resting on the wind, there was still an energy and a love and a momentum that he brought to everything. The grief and the pain of losing Michael will never leave me. But the memories and the love and the passion will bring light and color to each one of those dark times I have. And I hope it does the same for you. We can miss him, but we can shower that darkness in the color of his energy and his light and the goofy ass things that he did. I don't know if you guys have seen the slideshow, but Mike and I had the brainstorm idea when I was like 13 or 14 to sell firewood. So convinced our parents to buy 2 semi-trucks of firewood and cut it up, and yeah, we're in chainsaws. And he always had a bigger deal. I was like, why don't we just mow lawns? He's like, no, there's more money to be made in this. It was a bigger deal for Michael. And yeah, we were cutting that wood forever. So what I get to take away now, how I will live my life now, I'm going to lean into challenges. I'm going to look for challenges that change me. I'm going to allow myself to be scared with a challenge and accomplish that. I lost my dad just over 10 years ago, and Mike was a good support in that. So losing my dad and losing my brother now, I feel like I'm just on this constant mission to make them proud of me, to take what I've got and make them proud of me. So like I said, I will continue to live. Probably should get a tattoo, WWMD, what would Michael do? The most amazing thing here, I don't know most anybody here, but it is so incredible to just feel the love that the person that was in my life for as long as he was has affected everybody here. And we share that. He gave that to all of us. He's connected us. So I'm a video guy at heart. I was wondering if you all would humor me with one last round of applause if I film you. On the count of 3, I'm going to film everybody, and just give me an applause for Michael if you would, please.
It all kind of comes full circle. I'm honored to speak about my dad today because public speaking is something that reminds me a lot of him. If he were here, he would probably have me dressed up in some costume or singing a weird song to embarrass myself, to take my speech above and beyond others. I would then be standing on our fireplace mantle, practicing over and over and over, each time ending with my dad saying, "Give me more." That's a good representation of my dad, though. Anyone who knows me knows I'm a daddy's girl. Ever since I was born, I was wrapped around his finger. And then eventually he became wrapped around mine. We were partners in crime, a duo that couldn't be reckoned with. I always felt that we were on the same team, us against the world. Whether we were trying to figure out sports, politics, or make fun of Noah. One of the things that impacted me most was his inability to let me be average. I was somewhat shy as a kid and tended to feel more comfortable fitting in and blending in the background. But with Michael Mitcheom as your dad, there was none of that. He had the most creative mind and the biggest ambitions. In 2nd grade, I was supposed to come to school dressed up as someone famous. My person was Johnny Appleseed, and it wasn't enough to put me in overalls and a tin hat. Oh no. He had to go above and beyond. So we spent hours making this elaborate song for me to sing in front of the class. And the next day he sent me to school without shoes, so I couldn't even go to recess. But because of his creativity, everything he touched became special. Every holiday, vacation, and childhood memory I have is special because he went the extra mile. He taught me to be tough, strong, and passionate, which are some of the traits I pride myself most in. My confidence and self-love come from him. He truly believed I could do anything, and I was the smartest person on this planet. And I'm not just saying that. He had a real argument with my mom when I was 4 that I was the best 4-year-old reader in the whole world. He genuinely argued with my mom about that. He set high standards for me, but not just to set high standards. He knew I would be able to reach them. All of my successes stem from wanting to make him proud and the confidence that he instilled into me. Even though I could talk about you for hours, Dad, I'll end it on what I admired about you most. The way you were able to connect with people blows me away. I was always so excited to introduce you to people because watching you interact and connect with them made me feel so proud to be your daughter. I could watch you talk for hours. Your energy and charisma was magnetic. You were able to read people's needs and empower them. You never seemed embarrassed, and that allowed you to let loose and be the funniest person in the room. I don't even think I've ever heard someone say, "I like your dad." It was always, "Oh my gosh, I love your dad. He's so fun." Just the fact that I had to bring my dad out to make my parties more fun is telling. I hope in my lifetime I'm able to have half the impact that you were able to have on people. It's been hard without you. Sometimes I feel mad at the world like it's unfair. But I'd rather have you as a dad for 21 years than an average dad for a lifetime. You taught me what true love is. I could feel the love you have for me in everything that you did. I keep thinking that you were too good for this world. You were passionate about Noah and I, and in some weird way. It's almost like you were put on this earth to be a dad, and once that job was complete, it was your time. How lucky am I to have a dad that was put on this earth to father me. You were the person I looked up to most in this world. I love you more than words can describe. You will always be with me, even when I don't want to hear that loud voice in my head. You now live through me.
My name is Peyton Fitch, and I am Mike's close family friend, or as most of this community knows, a part of the Mitcheoms. I can also be considered Mike's goddaughter, as he would call me, and I would consider him my godfather. But in all honesty, Mike and the Mitcheoms are family. I've had the honor of knowing him and can consider him a second father in my life. Myself and my family loved him deeply and are absolutely heartbroken. He was a person who has always made me and many others feel safe and instantly happy. The moment he walked into a room, he would light it up with his big smile and personality. Everyone always knew when Mike was there, as he simply lifted everyone up with his presence. I remember the last time I saw Mike, and I will always remember this night. I was so sad and filled with anxiety about leaving for college and leaving Granite Bay. As I was laying in my room contemplating everything, all I heard was the door slam open and him yelling up the stairs, "Little P, get your ass down here before I come up there myself." That night he knew I needed some life coaching, and he gave me some of the best advice I've ever received. It made me feel not scared anymore. He had a way of making people feel happier instantly, no matter happy or sad that person really was. He also taught me to take risks in life and think about all the positives in life that life holds. I remember one time when us Mitcheoms were on vacation in Hawaii. Noah, Peyton, and Maddie all went to jump off this cliff jumping spot at the beach. I was so scared to do it and upset that the other kids were having fun jumping off this rock with no fear. Mike saw this and pulled me aside and did what he did best, coached me. He told me that I would regret not taking the risk of jumping and there was nothing to be afraid of. And the next thing I knew, I was on that cliff taking the risk. And it turned out to be my favorite thing we did on that trip, besides the wedding crashing. That was fun. This can be brought back to the famous quote that's probably on your guys' koozies: be comfortable being uncomfortable. Mike was a dreamer. He has inspired me to live life to the fullest and showed me how friends can become family and family isn't defined by blood. To Karen, Peyton, and Noah, I love you more than words can describe. Having you guys be our family has been one of the greatest blessings of my life. And I will always be here forever, through thick and thin. I don't know how to end this, but I just wanted to say, Mikey, my godfather, thank you so much for everything you've done for me and my family. You truly have changed my life and my family's life, and also many others. Even though you are gone, I promise you that the Mitcheom legacy will live on. And I know you are watching over all of us right now, protecting your family and ours. I love you so much and miss you so much, and look forward to the day of seeing you again and your big smile. Tatanka forever.
Hello everyone, my name is Maddie Fitch and I'm Mike's self-proclaimed goddaughter. Mike may have always called me his goddaughter, but we both really knew our relationship was much more than that. A father is someone who holds you when you cry, picks you up when you're down, prepares you for life's toughest battles, and gives his entire self to the people he loves. If this is how we define being a father, then I can easily consider Mike my father despite the lack of actual shared genetics. I'm sure a lot of the kids here feel the same way that I do. In my opinion, that was Mike's most beautiful skill. He was able to make everyone feel special, unique, and one of a kind. He had this amazing ability of making people feel like they were his favorite person. I hate to break it to you, everyone, but his 3 favorite people in this entire world, he and Noah and his beautiful wife, Karen. Being a father is no easy task, I'm sure, but Mike made it look effortless, easy, like second nature. Most people are lucky to have one amazing father figure in their lifetime, but I was absolutely blessed to have 2 beautiful dads in my life. Mike was and will forever be my dad in spirit. Most people knew Mike to be a happy, bubbly, and carefree man. However, throughout our relationship, I was gradually exposed to a completely different side of Mike. The tough love, straight to the point, and sometimes brutally honest side of him. I definitely had a history of testing our father-daughter relationship on the basketball court. I'm sure the entire Granite Bay freshman girls basketball team remembers, or may even be scarred, by a specific practice where Mike and I's relationship was put to the ultimate test. This certain practice was dedicated to working on our press break. As the practice ticked by, minute by minute, the hostility between Mike and I filled the room. The tension was palpable and the awkwardness seemed to creep into everyone's bones. We were arguing with each other about the most effective way to break the press. Mike was passionate about his idea, and I was equally passionate about my opinion. The irony in this situation is that Mike was the person who taught me to fight for what I thought was right, no matter the opposing opinions. I'm sure he never thought I was going to use this life lesson against him in a freshman girls basketball practice. I vividly remember pleading my case and Mike saying with a straight face, "Maddie, don't be stupid." Looking back on this experience, Mike's opinion was definitely the right one. In hindsight, the press break wasn't working simply because I couldn't dribble and I kept passing the ball to the defending team. I was never one to challenge or argue with coaches, but Mike was different. I felt comfortable poking him, testing him, and even sometimes pushing him too far. However, Mike did the same thing to me. He constantly pushed me to be a better teammate, athlete, friend, woman, and person. That was the beauty of our relationship. We both pushed each other to be better. My life will forever be changed because of Michael Mitcheom. I would not be the woman I am today without his wisdom, support, and unwavering love. Mike was larger than life, and that's how he will be remembered. Thank you.
I've known Mike since first grade. He was my first coach, and he was my best coach. He coached the best soccer team I've ever been a part of. I wish Diego could be here today, because I would have a lot of thank yous for him. But all those boys over there, blasters, man, that was a good team. But in knowing him for 11 years, I don't think I've ever once referred to him as Mike. It used to be Mr. Mitcheom, but that was too formal because we became friends. 35 years apart, but he was one of my closest friends. And so he became known as Terrence. Not sure why. It's because of Noah, but we were close. I don't know if everyone knows my Uncle George, but he passed a couple years ago. And Terrence came out to the funeral, and he always taught me to bring glasses to funerals. Because it's people like me who were criers. And he was a friend, he was a coach, but before basketball practice, he would come pick all of us up, me, Mateen, Noah, Bryce. We'd play classical music because Karen loved that. And we'd drive 20 minutes out to courtside to have our practices. And he was just more than a basketball coach. He taught me so much about life and how to love each other. I think about timing a lot. My mom came in to tell me about what happened to Terrence, and she said that he just went out and saw all of his family members across the world, across the country, and it just hit that maybe, this was his time. NBA offseason, NFL offseason, the Broncos are in good hands with Russ, and I just feel like this was his time. No, when I talked today at the hospital, what if it was when we were in Europe? What if it was before Cal? What if it was when Peyton was away? But this was his time. Man, I spoke about Bill Russell. Died the day after. Terrence passed, and I just know they're up there. We always talk about working together, trying to fix the Kings, because ever since me and Noah have been born, they haven't made the playoffs. And that was our goal. And, I gotta try and carry that on. Fix the Kings, yeah. And, I'll just finish with this. I love Kobe Bryant. I idolized him. And what he did for women's basketball was amazing. And I saw that with Peyton. Every game, I'm sure it got annoying, but, she was the star because of him. And no, man, football season was great because of him. And the way he spoke about you was beautiful character. So, I'd just like to thank everyone for listening to me. I hope to see you parents again one day.
Those look like comfortable shoes. I wish I had a pair of those shoes. Mom always said you could tell by a lot by a person's shoes. Really bad. Mike and I wore lots of shoes. If I think real hard about it, I can remember our first pair of shoes. They were construction boots. Then we wore some real fancy shoes. We were at Bobby McGee's. We met our wives there. Then we did some insurance. That was pretty boring. But I got to wear flip-flops like this. Known Mike since the beginning of time, it seems like. He was my best friend. That's all I got to say about that. Ooh, that was hard. You guys said it all. I was so thankful. Mike and I grew up together. We were best friends for a long time. We met in high school, and we worked together, lived together, got married together with our wife. It was an amazing time, and I was so thankful that he had this community of brothers that I was just so blessed. And we were all blessed to have Mike in our lives. And you guys all said it, so I won't take any more time. But we had one saying Mike and I used to do. So I'll say it first, and then I want you all to kind of lean back, and we'll all say it together on the count of 3, okay? So we would say, "You-whoa, fucker!" So on the count of 3, we're going to look up, right? And then 1, 2, 3, we're going to say it. Ready? 1, 2, 3. You-whoa, fucker!
Hey guys, thanks everybody for coming. Really appreciate it. It's my wife Stacy.
I know you all thought I was his daughter.
Mike taught you self-proclaimed greatness.
Yes.
Yeah. So everybody said a lot of positive things about Mike, and most of them were true. But there was a darker side to Mike. Although he was a good coach, he was a good coach. Sometimes he coached people the wrong things. So right, Maddie? That's your sister. Thanks, Doctor. Appreciate it. Kim coming. So we coached football, and how do I put this? We were god awful. Not very good. But Mike had this uncanny ability to make these little fuckers think they were good. It was amazing. We're sitting there playing Folsom, and first quarter is going okay because we kind of did enough things to kind of stay alive. And then come halftime, in little boy football, they'll turn the scoreboard off if you're down by, what is it, 40-ish? They turn that freaking scoreboard off early. We go in there at halftime, and he goes, "Guys, we got them right where we want them. Come on now." You can hear him like, "Come on, guys, you're legit." He had them believing that we had a chance the second half. And so luckily they turned the scoreboard off, so it didn't show 80. It only showed 40. And they run the clock. So the game goes, it's about, I think they're 10-minute quarters. So 20 minutes we're out of there. And after the game, he is going, "Guys, if they wouldn't have ran that damn clock, we're coming back. You see what we did?" He would like. So then we'd get together on Monday and we'd go, oh man, shit, we got Rocky. What are we gonna do? He goes, oh man, we're screwed. Tuesday at practice though, he had those guys believing. He had those guys believing that we had, thanks. Oh shit. God damn. All right, so he had those guys believing that they had a shot. We went through that for 10 weeks. I don't know, we won 2 games a year. And he had those guys believing, but we're so good. We got so much talent. We're going to be just fine. We're going to keep. We did. We kept grinding. He kept believing. He kept believing and feeding those boys. I thought it was a lie, but it was the truth. He made those guys believe that we could overcome. Well, what we lacked in size, we made up with no speed and completely weakness, okay? So even though we had those 3 horrible traits, we were able to ham and egg a couple wins together and kept the guys together, grew the team. It was the most amazing experience coaching with the guy. It was the boys, and I don't know, I think maybe we should have got better helmets because they believed this stuff. They believed this, and they kept working. They kept going. It came back last year, and it took 8 years, but we got them. Beat Folsom. Okay. Took 8 years, but we got them. So, anyway, hey, just a small thing. I know we got a million things to go on here.
That he was very
Each and every one of you, from the bottom of our hearts, thank you very much. From the Mitcheom family, the Mitcheoms, and the extended family, thank you very much for coming out. We really appreciate it. It's amazing the outpouring of love this community has had. We really appreciate it. Special man. One of the things that he said, some other people reiterated, was everybody's got a story. Okay, everybody's got a story. Everybody in this room, in this outdoor area, has a story. And it's important that, it's your story. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter your story. You can overcome problems. It's just fine. If you were to be around Mike Mitcheom, as everybody in this room has, you know that. So thanks, guys. Really appreciate it. I'll turn the mic over to Stacey. You want to say something? Yeah. Okay, good.
Stacey Soares, and I'm Lance's wife, although I'm sure many of you thought maybe I may be his daughter. But I'm kidding. Losing Mike was like losing a member of our family. Like a brother or the favorite uncle, the person that was always there around for you. I agree with all the lovely words that have been said before with the speakers, and I just have a small example of how he impacted the youth of this community. There was one morning, my daughter Marina, who is a very good friend of Peyton, and in fact they are in college now, in campuses close enough that they visit each other frequently, and she was very close to Mike. And one morning, this is a little high for me, she came in with her pajamas and her flip-flops and proclaimed, Mike Mitcheom is the most charismatic person I have ever met. I said, Marina, you know a lot of people. This is a very bold statement for you. I mean, you know so many people. It's evidenced by the number of attendees at the parties you used to throw when we were out of town. And I was taken back. I said, really? Mike Mitcheom is the person, the most charismatic person you know? And she said, absolutely, without a doubt. And so I just kind of thought about it for a minute, and we were in the kitchen, and I said, you know what, Marina? I agree with you. Mike Mitcheom is also the most charismatic person I know. Very special person. Michael, we miss you so much. We'll see you later. And you are now a legit legend. And their stories will grow and grow and be told many a time. Many a time, my friend.
Okay, boys.
To Michael Anthony.
One more. That's right.
To Michael Anthony.
Mike.
Long live the king.
I see a baby! I see a baby!